Hello, Casey Wilson, owner of Roseville Strength and Conditioning and one of your co-hosts of the Do or Do Not podcast. And this is
Brad Erie. Are we doing the intro to the broken thing first?
Oh, yeah. Last episode, our technical advisor here, the guy who's supposed to run everything, for some reason we had a glitch. And so the audio was great. So if you listen on audio, no big deal. But the picture on the YouTube video froze
On
quite
me,
a bit.
Which is what
The first 2.5 minutes, there's a picture of this guy going,
showing the guns.
Yeah.
Look, like I told Casey, this whole enterprise is running off like 2007 technology. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We've had many other podcasts have similar issues with like $2 million setups. So I blame Casey for not buying a higher quality guy. You know, you get what you pay for, and you pay me nothing but
free is not good.
But we'll clip this little beginning.
I even let you be one of the talent on screen, and
I know
I'm overpaying.
My only regret is it didn't stop and freeze with me being shirtless flexing. That would have been the best. But we'll clip this part as well on last week's thing, which I'll upload.
So yeah, there was a little glitch last week. It's all good. You can still hear all the audio. So on all the other, we have more people just listen to the podcast and watch it on YouTube. So that won't affect any of you. So today, all Star Wars all day.
Something new.
So we did book reviews last year of the Heir to the Empire, what should have been the sequel trilogy. So
part of it still might be.
Well, not part of the sequel trilogy. That pile of shit is already out there. But with that being said, is we did a book review. I got Brad to read them. He loved them.
Yep.
Started him on his path to reading Star Wars books. So I've been reading the new Jedi Order.
Yep.
So so far I'm on book 12. I've read these before manually and in the book form back when they came out 20 years ago. But as we were talking about the other one, you just forget so much, and it's so much better on audiobook.
It is.
To be honest, I mean, these aren't Marcus Thompson is not voicing these, so it's
is the first big. When I just started, listening to these, and I get it on, and I'm ready. I'm ready, and I'm like, that's not Han's voice. Like, what's going on?
No. But you know what? They're still really good to just listen to because
once
you're not sitting there
them,
having to flip pages and do that.
Yeah, once I got into it, man, like it.
There's a storyteller telling a story. They just don't do the voices very good.
Yeah,
Marcus Thompson is a gem to be treasured.
He is right up there with
that guy. I'd like to meet him too. Timothy Zahn and him are two people I'd like to go. I've spent so many hours reading your books and listening to your voice.
Yes,
those are people I really admire. Kathleen Kennedy, I would not even just cross a deserted street to shake her hand. Maybe to kick her in the head, but
I'm tempted
throw a beat down on her.
To put up,
I would never hit a woman. I'm teasing. I would never do that. She's the devil, so maybe I would.
I wouldn't hit her, but if she just happened to slip down a flight of stairs that I was close to, I don't know. It was just totally accidental.
Yeah.
But I want to post that meme that you sent me. Maybe I'll do that for our 3 followers.
Yeah, that one is hilarious.
That made me laugh hard.
Yes, it's a great. It is quintessential what Star Wars has become under Kathleen Kennedy. Not about story, not about telling the stories that could have been great and amazing, but telling bullshit and trying to change everything up and caring more about somebody's genitalia than what a good character is.
But we got to focus.
We got to focus. You're always trying to distract me.
You're trying to save your daughter in her moment of need.
No, it's my house, too.
Your house.
So we got to punch these out because I got priorities afterwards. So the new Jedi Order. So I'm on the 12th book of it right now. Brad has read 1.5. So we were going to do a book review on 2, but he honestly has not even read. I mean, he couldn't handle 7 hours of listening to a book. Because it's all, each book's like an hour and 30, hour and 40.
I told you.
I mean, 3 hours and
I had valid excuses. I had escaped chickens.
You could have been listening to the book while trying to catch the chickens.
You got to approach these chickens with
I work out hard. I work out. I'm sweating and suffering when I'm listening to these books.
I had grandma come and visit, and that's like a third child.
Oh, God. Excuses out of you, man. So
like if everyone had one.
Yeah.
You know, that's saying.
Well, that's more for assumptions.
Well, still. Kind of fits, right?
Kind of.
Excuses are like elbows. Is that what you were saying?
No, like
we all have one. I'm trying to keep this
assumptions are like assholes.
We'll see. I was trying to.
I already said shit, so
I mean, the problem is like I can't work on these videos when my kids are around because they're like, "Hey, that's you on the screen. What are you saying?" I'm like, "Well, honey, you don't want to hear me about."
Well, you're talking perverted.
I mean, Casey's talking about squatting and like up and daisies and all these other weird names.
My hate for Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy, hate how much we love some of the women. But I mean, how
much we admire Dave Filoni.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to explain to my kids what hashtag Filoni is.
Yeah, and he says horrible stuff. So I don't say anything about fellatio or anything.
I am secure in my manhood, and he deserves it.
All right, let's get focusing on track.
All right,
we got to knock this book reviews out.
Refocus. Okay, let's do it.
So these books are set 21 years after the Battle of Endor.
Yes, and I just want to say before you get started,
what happens at the Battle of Endor?
All right, first,
no. What happens at the Battle of Endor?
They defeat the Empire. Isn't that the year zero, like what we use, like the birth of Christ, like they use like BBY or something like that?
Well, there's Battle of Yavin too.
That's what I was thinking. But anyways, when I first got on this book, like I'm like, wait. Who are all these kids again? Like I had to go to Wikipedia. Shout out Wikipedia. I know you're one of our listeners.
They tell you who the kids are if you listen.
But I don't know anything about them. So I had to go be like, all right, so you got the twins, and then you got Anakin.
Jana and Jason.
Yep. And I'm like trying to figure out how old they are. And I think that they are probably in their late teens, and they're like maybe a couple years older than Anakin, right?
I would say they're mid-teens.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, got that. And then it comes with my
trying to think, because a lot of these characters are in, that final book series before Lucasfilm bought the Aftermath of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these characters are in there. Some of them are meeting in this book series. Like,
how
much should I say? So Jagged Fell will eventually marry Jana Solo, but they meet in this book series.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a lot more. There's more Jedi.
Tahiri Vela is in love with Anakin. Well, you haven't even gotten to this spot. I can't go too far ahead.
You can't go.
I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin it for Brad. But anyway, all these characters are part. See, this is the whole craziness is why we get so irritated. The reason why we want to do these book reviews.
Yeah.
And why I want to do them specifically, and why I talk about like we did the thing on Darth Revan is there's a lot of Star Wars people that we hope come across this eventually.
Yeah.
Not that many right now, but eventually they'll go, oh, what's this?
We have show more up on than 100 total.
Yeah. So we hope that eventually we have some people come across, because when I watch Star Wars stuff, there isn't a lot about legends. There isn't a lot about these books out there. Yeah. There are some people that talk about them and they refer to them as it relates to the movies nowadays or the TV shows. There's a lot of stuff that's like the canon current stuff. And I think the beauty of Star Wars is in the whole book series that came afterwards.
Yeah.
It is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of just beautiful, great. These are sci-fi writers that have won awards. Timothy Zahn has won a bunch of awards, and he's the best of them all, in my opinion. But there's a bunch of other just amazing writers that developed this whole galaxy of people, and they're all interwoven together.
Characters, great stories.
Like I'm saying, you're getting introduced to characters in this book series that will be in the next book series, and all other offshoot series and other books. So what I want to do is bring light to people that are like, oh, I just watched the movies and I watched what freaking Disney has done. And I watched the original ones and they're really good, but I really like the sequel trilogy. Like if you don't know anything, it's like being ignorant about anything. If you don't know about it, you can't really know what you're missing.
I'm so excited to talk about my introduction to this series. Like
Yes.
I took so many notes. Like my head was blown.
Yep.
It was
Just like Heir to the Empire.
yeah. I'm liking this more.
It's very in depth, and this series is like
yeah.
it gets more. It just keeps going and go. I mean, it is. At first, I was like, if I remember, like in my mind, I thought it's probably about 8 books when I first started reading it because it'd been 20 years since I'd really read.
Yeah.
I think they started in like 1999 or 2000, right around there is when these books they just kept coming out because there were only 3. They were small. I remember them being small books, and then they're only like 3.5 hours long or so each book. And I loved this book series so much, and I remember the gist of it, but there's so much. I'm on the 12th book. I thought there was 8.
Yeah.
You know,
and
I'm like going,
forever.
oh crap, I forgot all about this. And it's amazing. So I want to bring that beauty of what was the Star Wars legends in these books that could have been made into live action series, that could have been movies.
Yeah.
I want to bring that to people so they start understanding how crappy Disney has handled this whole thing.
See now,
and let's be honest. George Lucas didn't make any of these live action movies. He didn't do this. He authorized the books to be written, which was great. But he could have been doing this too. I know he wasn't as passionate about it. But what if George Lucas brought in a Dave Filoni to Lucasfilms and put him in charge and let him start running stuff like he's running now at Disney, and not let Kathleen Kennedy screw everything up for so long, and let these other people that aren't real Star Wars people, these people that probably haven't read one book that are now freaking directing TV series and they don't know anything. We need to start educating people. So I think doing these little book reviews are great.
Especially when I'm the one who is like the one who's being shown the light.
That's the part of it is I've read these and I understand basically I've read a lot of the books. I haven't read everything. My goal this year is to read all the books that I haven't read from Legends, but this guy hasn't read hardly any. And so I think expressing these feelings and understanding what is out there and what's available to you in these books and how great they are and how much better they are than anything that's been put out by Disney. There's a few good things put out. Ahsoka I really liked, Rogue One.
But not like this.
Not like this. This is something, and this is what Kathleen Kennedy hates, which is the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
You know, so this is all basically Luke Skywalker is the Jedi Master, and he's built a new order, and he's continuing to build it, and he's training young Jedis, and this is the culmination 21 years after the Emperor dies.
Let me go into this. All right. You just take a step back.
First, did you know that it was 21 years?
I
wrote notes too.
I figured some. My notes are about what I was just thinking and experiencing going through here. There's some of this stuff.
So before you go, let's go over this. So these 2 books are the New Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Book 1, Vector Prime. Book 2, Dark Tide 1, Onslaught. And this is the thing when you do these books, if you're doing them on Audible, they'll tell you basically what the next step in the series. But you have to pay close attention because there'll be a book 2. There'll be a book 2, like Onslaught is the Dark Tide 1, and there's a Dark Tide 2.
Yeah.
Then there's a 3rd book.
Yeah.
You know, there's a 4th book, but it'll say something else like it won't say Dark Tide 3, it'll say something else. So you got to really follow along because it'll say like book 8. Like this guy was showing me, is this the next book? And it did say 2 on it, but it was the 2nd book in a 2-part series, but it was actually book 8 is what he sent me. I was like, no, you got to look at the title.
To it, and I'm like, wait a minute, that seems to be off.
Yeah, so you have to really pay attention to it.
Good point.
Book 1, Vector Prime, which we'll talk a lot about today. Dark Tide 1, Onslaught of the New Jedi Order, what we're talking about. These are what we're reviewing right now. So go ahead, hit me with your stuff. I mean, there's so much to discuss. I actually made notes because I didn't want to like skip over anything important.
Yeah. So again, learning like about the family dynamic, which I really grown to like just in the first book. Like you really start to see the twins and then Anakin. I'm like, okay, very cool how Han and Leia deals with their kids going in some of this stuff is really cool. So that blew my mind because, you know, and Luke and Jade here, you know, the last time I read, they had just met and she was trying to kill him. and now like they're this great couple.
Oh, you read all three of the Heir to the Empire.
Yeah.
All right. But you didn't read the 2 books that came after.
No.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that was really good. And then as I was going through this book, I realized how many other sci-fi shows completely ripped the story off. And they didn't do it nearly as good. So the Jedis in the New Republic, start running across this enemy that they don't know anything about. All right. And they, like, you hear like some of the stories through the enemy's eyes, and you hear like they're sneaking in, they're testing out the Jedi strength, they're like figuring the stuff out, and then the New Republic and the Jedis don't know what's going on, and they first have this conflict.
All right, but you're like jumping way
I'm
ahead.
jumping all the way up, but I'll get to the point.
We also want to do a book review where we have to start towards the start and then move on.
But when they learn the true power of this army, I'm like, okay, that happened in Star Trek like 6 times since this was written. Like, it brought up memories of the Dominion, like, when they sent the stuff into the quadrant and be like, oh, we'll show this Dominion who's boss, and Dominion's like, you don't know anything about us, and wipe them out. The 4th Star Trek movie, from JJ's, or it's the 3rd, I think, where they go and they have all those little beetle things. To the Enterprise, and you're like, we have no chance to stop them. I'm like, so it's so blew my mind, like all of this, and then seeing how Luke has made all of these Jedis, but the Jedis are fractured. You have like, there's no order to them, there's no council, there's no general directive. They're just kind of like, hey, we're just kind of these cool guys, and some of them want to go travel and be like the Judge Dredd type characters in the galaxy. Other ones are like, we got to go show these creatures who's boss. And the other ones are like, no, we got to stay back and protect. And so it's kind of like all of the stuff that I had no idea existed. And I'm like, that's right. I never thought about, okay, so Luke starts training them, but he's not a council. Like, he's just teaching them what he learned through the eyes of the Empire, of like, the Jedis.
And this is what will irritate you even more as you get further in this. You go, wait a second. What? Who's this guy on an island drinking green goat milk and refusing to engage? That is not who is in Legends. Legends Luke is, he's having to figure this stuff out on his own. Yeah. But he is building a powerful Jedi Order that is unlike what we saw as a weak Jedi Order in the Clone Wars. Yeah, and you're watching the early stages of it, and you're trying to figure out that they don't know which kind of direction to go. They're not all very unified. They're all unified. Like, they follow what Luke says to a certain extent, but he doesn't necessarily exert the control of a Jedi Council was trying to exert. But then again, did Qui-Gon ever do what the Jedi Council told him to do? No, it makes so much sense. Like, I could have a whole book of just this Jedi Order. Be like, okay, that's what this is. These are I'm on the 12th book right now. It's just the new Jedi Order. What are we doing here, gang? Are we all going to be divided, or are we going to work together here? Let's make some common goals. Wait till you get to some of these Jedis in that final book series. When you eventually they're Jedi Masters now, and there is a council. This is really starting to pick up. So these books are not very long. It took me a while to really get in because of the, it's just kind of my life. But once I got in about hour and a half into book 1, then I went through 3 hours almost straight, of like, this is the greatest thing ever. So I'm sorry. I just want to say, like, seeing all this stuff being laid in, just it blew my mind of like, okay, I never thought about that. Like, that's really cool about that's how why when you and I started first talking before we did a podcast, and we were just talking, and I started like bringing stuff up, and you're like, what? Huh? And I was like, dude, there is hundreds and hundreds of hours. I used to have plastic at my mom's. Rats got into them, unfortunately, when they pulled an orchard out next to my mom's house and chewed through. Not the books. I had big plastic containers full of hardcover, all these books in hardcover. Because I would go buy them in hardcover as soon as they came out. There were some paperbacks too, like the Rogue series, the Rogue Squadron series. I had all in paperback for the most part. I think I had like one hardcover, but I had them all in hardcover. and then they got all chewed up. So it's nice though that we have audiobooks now.
Yeah.
The technology has come to the point to where
The
I
sound effects.
don't care about
all that
rats
stuff.
chewing up my phone.
No.
So
But I just wanted to share my experience of coming in this, completely blind of like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. How cool is that? And then, I mean, we're going to spoil the crap out of this. The thing with Chewbacca, which I'll let you give more of the detailed thing, like had me, I'm like, wait, what?
yeah.
What? Oh my God. I listened to that part
Brad
twice
was
to make
so
sure.
excited he just spit on me.
Yeah. I rewound it to listen again to make sure I heard it all right, that I did not miss anything. I'll let
Remember
you tell
I
it all
told
about
you. Remember I told you when we were talking about the secret shows. I go, and Han Solo doesn't die first. Chewbacca dies.
Yeah, but
go,
I didn't
this
know it
is
was
bullshit.
So,
This is how fucked up Kathleen
so
Kennedy is.
soon and how he did it.
Yep.
All right. Now you're better with the names and explaining all the plot points, but I just wanted to throw that out there that this
in
was
general,
amazing.
I think that today we got to do is kind of go over who these invaders are going to be.
Yeah.
Basically, Vector Prime is the vector that they're coming in from out of the galaxy. So there's a planet close to the edge of the galaxy.
Yeah.
So the galaxy far, far away. Right. And so they monitor it. And because they are trying to see what is on the other side. Is there other stuff out there? They don't know. So they're out on the outer edge of the galaxy. And the Yugoslavia Vong also use this as what they call their entry point into our galaxy. Now, as you read further in the books, you find out 40, 50 years earlier, 100 years earlier, something like that, they had scouts coming here. Yeah. And this is, when we start talking, you haven't read any of the Thrawn books, huh?
Yeah, I'm working my way through the Thrawn books.
All right, so in the Chiss, they were called the Grist, but the Emperor knew about these invaders. He knew that there was something, he had visions of something coming from outside the galaxy. And this is why he was trying to build the empire up so strong and build it into such a military power, because he knew there was something coming. He had visions of the Yugosong Vong coming. The Chiss encountered, they defeated the Chiss and the Chiss Empire, I believe. They don't really get too depth into it, but like Thrawn knew about in the Thrawn books, they were called the Grist, I think, the Grist, I think is what they called them. They had unusual ships. They hadn't fleshed it all out yet, but it was interesting that the Emperor, this is what the theory is, and this is what, there's some stuff that leads to him that he had visions of. He was trying to build all these ships and trying to build his army up so strong, not just to control the galaxy, but to prepare for an invasion and to be able to defeat that invasion. So that's something to think about whenever you're thinking about the Emperor. Is he was also thinking about this invasion. If you read this book series, you'll find out this invasion force is no joke. They are beating the crap out of the New Republic and anybody they go against.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of, when the book starts, there's a lot of dissension in the galaxy. There's this growing tension between different planets, all these problems, and they're trying, and Leia and Mara, they go out, and I'm not going to get into like this planet, and I didn't write down the names of that, but they're trying to figure out what's going on, who's sowing this dissension, there's something undercurrent that they're trying to figure out what's causing these problems in the New Republic and what's causing these civil war type tensions that are starting to build. Number one, we can use our political system, and the New Republic Senate is, we can easily go, a bunch of divisive people that want their people to have this, and all the other people are evil that don't want it, both sides fighting back and forth. But think about multiple planets, not like states or political parties, but like planets all over a galaxy that are all armed. Not all of them are armed, but there's a bunch of them that are armed and powerful, and they're all in alliances, and I'm with this planet. So you're trying to hold this all together, and there's all this dissension. So they're trying to figure it out. And there's this guy named Noma Nord, who is one of the main guys they find is sowing this tension all throughout the Republic. Well, we find out later he's an advanced scout, or in that book, the first book, I believe we find out, but if not, it's the second book, that he is a Yugosong Vong, and they have these things called Yugolith maskers, and they have these things. They're the thing about the Yugosong Vong is we get into talking about them, and there's so much to talk about. So sometimes I'll be like, I'll have to drift off and explain something real quick. They hate technology. They despise technology. They would smash every phone. They would destroy every TV. all their stuff, they're an advanced technology, but it's all grown. It's
Yeah,
all
that's so
natural.
cool.
Everything is grown. They have ships called coral skippers, and they're grown. They have they have poisons that they do, and they grow them from different things. Their armor, their ampy staffs, they're all grown or living creatures that they developed and they manipulate, and they have what's called shapers. And these shapers are kind of like almost like priests or scientific priests, and they do these things to shape these things into this whatever they need them to be. They figure those things out. So it's kind of a combination of science, but also the people who oversee the shapers are more considered priests. So there's a warrior class and the shaper class, and then there's the priest. And they all have different levels of power. And there's a war master who's in charge of everything, but everything is natural.
Yeah.
So they have this mask that makes him look like a human being or like an alien or whatever they want him to look like, a humanoid. And he's out. His whole goal is to destabilize the New Republic before the invasion force comes in. And then so they and also together they're gathering information about the New Republic.
Yeah.
And they're sowing dissension and creating divisions so they can exploit those when they come in, because they're going to try to break up the New Republic. And so it makes it easier for them to conquer each planet. And they're not coming in looking to be buddies.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to conquer you and rule you like the Empire. They're looking to come in and kill everything, destroy everything, make you your slave until you die. And then they offer offerings, meaning they would just throw us in a pit as an offering to their gods. You know, like they're like brutal. Their whole society is based on pain and death.
And the Jedi,
that's honor, is in pain and
really
death.
detect them, at least where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, you know,
that's so cool.
I was going to get to that.
Well, dude,
do you not want to explain what they are first before you start talking about?
So excited. Okay.
So the Jedi cannot detect them because they're not of this galaxy.
Yeah.
So they have no midichlorians. They're not like something that they can feel. So the Jedi just feel a void in the Force wherever they're at. And they eventually understand. They become to understand. I think Leia is the first to figure it out. But like Nominor, she figures out, like, because Luke tells her these, you can't sense these. They're a void in the Force. And then she's meeting with this Nominor guy and going, I can't sense him. I can't feel him. And then, you know, the next time, and she remembers this. I believe it's later she remembers. She goes, oh, he's one of them. But how does he look human? You know what I mean? Yeah. He's somehow hidden himself. So the Yuuzhan Vong grow everything. They hate technology. Their ships, their world ships, their frigates, their fighters are all grown. They're made out of this coral type stuff. They have what's called Dovin basils. These are things that create black holes or and absorb energy fire. So let's say you got a Star Destroyer shooting lasers and proton torpedoes and all these different things, you know? They're shooting it. These things suck them into a black hole. Oh, yeah. And then they also, these same things propel the ships too. Yeah. So everything is natural. These Dovin basils are alive. They have these war master creatures that are just there to have everybody on the same page and stuff too. Yeah. It's so organized, but it's all based on pain and death. Pain is the ultimate thing. Feeling good is abhorrent to these people, or not people. These
kind of like training here,
kind of just a little bit,
you know, just all.
But it's about pain. It's about pain. They put themselves through this pain. They have these things called racks that they get like a torture rack, and they get all pulled and squeezed. And this is how they kind of meditate and feel good about themselves. That I can handle this and do this. So they are a scary, scary group. Should be trainers. And they just want to basically destroy everything. But they're also politically minded, where they're trying to make these people believe, hey, you help us, you join with us, we'll save your planet. And they're going to destroy their planet too. But these people are scared, and they start to see that the New Republic is going to lose, that these guys are too big and too powerful and too many of them.
You know what they needed? They needed the Empire. They needed some Sith into the Empire.
Yeah. It's interesting. I do remember how this series ends, but you know how they defeat them. But it is the most scary thing. And the Jedi fight well against them. They can't sense them, but they use the Force to move, and there's Force strength, and they're it's not like they lose the Force when they're around them. They just can't sense them. Yeah. Like they can't sense their intentions. They have to really, feel.
Yeah.
They learn how to fight them, but
where I'm at, they can't sense traps and stuff. Like they're normally like, oh, you can't sense a trap. You're
yes.
walking into a trap. I'm like, I didn't sense a thing.
Also, another big part of it is they use natural toxins to poison.
Yeah.
And so they did these experiments, and one of them was like there was a room they intoxicated like 100 people, and one of them was a Jedi, Mara Jade, and everybody died except for Mara because she's a Jedi and she's been able to resist enough through healing trances, through using the Force to prop herself up and strengthen herself. But throughout most of the book, she is dying.
Yeah, she's sick.
She's sick and dying,
right? Or where I'm at.
Yeah, she's sick and she's constantly struggling, and she finds that when she uses the Force, it gives her more strength and it fights off this thing. So at first she's kind of just like taking a back seat. Then she finally says, I don't know what book that is, but she gets back into the fight and it helps her, but she's still dying. So they do these different toxins and they try to, well, I won't get into that.
Yeah, stay the first two books.
This guy won't. So these guys come from Vector Prime outside, and then they take over this planet that was a monitoring station, but they had an advanced person in that monitoring station waiting to, turn everything off, and doing this stuff. So they had one of their people. And then we also learned that they've been scouting this galaxy for a long, long time. Like the Warp Master that came in, his grandfather had came in advance, and they find his skeleton on a planet, and the Jedi like find it there, and then because they're trying to figure out who these people are.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
So there's some archaeology, and these archaeologists have discovered the skeleton of his grandfather.
Yeah,
and then different stuff. So then they're like, they try to bring those to try to figure out how can we fight these guys? What are these guys' weaknesses? Type of things.
That's where I'm at. They're all like Luke gave everyone orders of like, okay, we need to.
That's in the second book, yeah.
Yeah, of like we got to scatter and see what we're dealing with because we don't know anything about them.
Yeah, so
so good.
Let's see. I don't want to jump ahead too much.
While you're looking,
Jedi cannot sense them.
I want to bring this up. So one of my favorite comic book authors, I can't think of his name right now because I'm bad with names. That should just be a given.
Yeah.
He did this huge Marvel storyline based off of this, and it's almost, I'm surprised they didn't sue until I realized that, they're all the same company. Like, that's probably why. So in Marvel Comics, they have like the Negative Zone, and they have this guy named Annihilus. It was founded in the Fantastic Four, and this series is called the Annihilus Wave. And it's everything you just said, but in Marvel Comics. They come in, everything is alive. Everything's bred for their specific purpose of war. And they take over half the Marvel universe, like before anyone can do anything about it. Because there's just millions of them. They don't know how to fight them. It's not from this different thing. And I was listening to the book. I'm like, man, this sounds so familiar. Like, well, this is great. And then I looked, and the guy said that he read this book in the 90s and said, I want to do that in comics. And so he did it for comics. So I just wanted to say that.
But also, these stories aren't like unique just to Star Wars. Yeah. Think about us honkies. Well, I do have quite a bit of Indian blood in me, but
there we go.
Let's think about these honkies that come to the shores on the East Coast and go, and we move all the way across. There's so many of them. They're coming in waves. So you're trying
to say that the Native Americans, we're the
conquering Yugosong Vong. We weren't trying to. We put them in. We killed a lot of them. We put a lot in our service, made them slaves pretty much.
Yeah.
Or put them on reservations.
Good point.
But this is just a story throughout our history. Yeah. It's human history. So somebody comes from the shores, the Vikings. Yeah. Who are these crazy tattooed up dudes? Because the Yugoslavs are tatted up.
Yeah.
Big, powerful warrior dudes coming in and just going through Europe and just whipping the crap out of them all.
This author is nothing but a copier.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just, but it's done in a beautiful. I love the whole they hate technology and they grow everything.
Yeah.
And their whole society is based on pain. I mean, you think of Darth Sidious, all those things that they do there, he's not out there like cutting off a limb and adding another limb. He's not scarring his body up, for the purposes of showing honor to he's this honor. You have to look this way. You have to have these scars to be honored. I'm not jumping in the torture rack just to feel good. If I dying, the whole thing about dying in battle is honorable, never run, never retreat. Because these guys do not, they will just, let's say that the New Republic is beating their ass in something, they'll die. They'll go to the last guy, just keep coming and dying. They will not retreat hardly ever. They do tactically retreat sometimes, but it's only to a little bit further out so they can replan another type of attack.
So they're like Spartans that turn it up to 11.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much. But when they do run into stiff resistance, like the Jedi or the thing, they spend this whole book series trying to figure out how to kill the Jedi. They try to do it through poisoning. They try to do it through traps. They try to do it by, they think if they can split them up, whatever it is, the Jedi are a threat, and they know they're a threat. And so if they feel they can take the Jedi out.
Yeah.
So they actually try to turn the New Republic against the Jedi. There's so much they do, but it all fails because the Jedi led by Master Skywalker,
Luke.
eventual Grandmaster Skywalker, who just keeps showing like this is not his total evolution of who he is. Like more books in the future come, like 40 years in the future, you kind of see what he becomes. But he is trying to be the balanced leader. There's some Jedi that want to just go out and throw themselves into situations. They'll go after pirates, and they're going after these people and dispensing justice. And the New Republic doesn't necessarily want them out there doing this and being like a rogue, but they're like, this is what our job is to do this. This is what Jedi are supposed to do, is keep the balance, protect people that can't protect themselves, blah, blah, blah. So it's really interesting that as you get further in the books, the schism gets bigger. Basically, there's groups of Jedi that just go, hey, we're doing our thing. Fuck you, Luke. And Luke tries to say something already. Yeah, Luke, but when they realize what these Yuuzhan Vong are really coming after them, and then the New Republic turns on them, they kind of realize we got to rally around each other. So, but it's really interesting.
The first two books do a really good job of setting this all up thus far. Like you're really starting to see what this whole thing's about, and it's so exciting. And
each book is different, and they focus on different characters. Meaning, some of the books touch on all the characters, but they really focus in on Janna on one book, or Janna and Jagged Fell, or Jason or Anakin, or then this story is with Luke and Mara in this group, and Tahiri Vela, and then this book is Han going out on. So we'll get into it. Chewbacca dies.
It's like going into World War II and you're following certain characters through this massive conflict.
Yes, there's different stories. Like each episode or each book is a different episode, and they focus on different people. Yeah. Like Jack Black and Lizzo.
Yeah. Oh man, we need more of that all around. Because when I think Star Wars,
so far we haven't had any shitty any shitty books that do that. Yeah. But that's what we're talking about. Is there's just different episodes that focus on different people and different things, but they're all in this overlooping battle between the Vong, the New Republic, the Jedi, and it's just awesome. So Chewbacca dies in this book. So what happens is this is when they don't know a lot about the Vong yet in the first book.
Yeah.
They're just starting to go. They destroy a whole squadron of Jedi like X-wing fighters because they have their tactics and their weapons. We don't know. Like they're like, what is this stuff eating through my? What
that they takes away their shield.
Yeah, like what is this stuff? They don't understand. It's like going up against something you've never seen before. Like if Napoleon's army tried to go against our army right now, it would take 100 guys from our army to wipe through 1,000 of them, because you just don't. What are these guns that shoot so much? What are missiles?
Yeah, why can they go so much farther than ours?
What are these flames coming out of this? They don't understand any of that. Well, that's kind of what the Jedi are faced with. They have these great machines, but they've never faced these coral skippers, and they've never faced the Yuuzhan Vong. So there's a huge learning curve, and you get the shit wiped out of you. One guy out of a whole squadron of Jedis flying X-wings, one guy survives and gets out to report back what happened. So now they have some information.
Yep.
Because at least he got out and they got some information out of it. So they're on this planet, and there's a giant Dovin basil on this planet that is sucking the moon towards the planet.
So cool.
So they don't know what a Dovin basil is, but they know there's something down there that is pulling. And so they're
they realize orbit.
So you got Han, Anakin, Chewie. Right. There's a couple other guys. There's an old guy that he knew. There's some different people there that were on the ship, but they were on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And basically, Chewbacca saves Anakin, gets him on the ship, but he can't get on the ship himself.
Yes.
And this moon is basically starting to hit the planet.
Yes, cracking up the planet.
And there's the Millennium Falcon, or no, it wasn't even. It was like a transport ship or something. And Anakin gets saved. He goes up and he's in the pilot seat and he's gonna fly. Because Han, I think, jumps and goes, "I'm gonna go back for Chewie and get Chewie up." And Anakin's flying, and
Anakin's like, "We don't have time. This planet's
yes."
We've
everybody's
lost
like,
them.
"We're all gonna die, or I gotta go."
Yeah.
So Chewbacca dies, or everybody on the ship and Chewbacca
and
dies.
Anakin made
but
the call.
Han thinks he could have saved him.
Yes.
And
Anakin
he
made
is
the call.
pissed. So this moon basically crushes Chewbacca and crushes the whole planet, destroys everything. They get out and get away. Han, Anakin, and Anakin is Han's son. For those of you who didn't.
Yeah, but it's more traumatizing than that, because it reminded me a lot of that scene in Platoon where like they're in a helicopter and they're pulling away and the guys
and Han's shot. He watches his best friend die.
And so,
how much better is that than the Ben Solo putting a lightsaber through his dad?
Oh, so much better.
Oh, so much better.
And Chewie's bloodied, he's beaten, battered, but he grabs Anakin and he throws Anakin into the air, into the arms of Han, his dad. And his dad gets him. And then, because Chewbacca knew that he wasn't getting out of there. Like he knew he was sacrificing himself. He's like, only one of us is getting out. And so he lived
up to his life debt.
Yep. He throws his son gets into the ship, hand saying, "Reach out to me. Like, we'll get you. We'll get you."
Anakin goes up and is flying the ship now.
Yeah, he goes flying the ship. All the while, Chewie is still like catching on fire, like things are falling on him. He's still trying to fight to stay alive, and Han's like screaming for him, like we'll get you, we'll get you. And then Anakin takes off, and Han sees Chewie like get finally collapsed on by the crumbles of the moon and the planet and the fire and the rocks. It's all kind of coming together. And the fact that Han never, at least this far in the book, has yet to forgive his son.
Yes, it comes later on.
That is like such an interesting,
what's really cool
point in this thing.
Oh, it is
of like the dynamic of like your kids and how there's a section in this where I'm at where he talks to Leia, of like we could have saved him. We should have saved him, and his son is just begging for forgiveness, this young Jedi.
Yep.
And maybe the strongest of the three kids, at least at this point, as far as I know.
At this point, he is.
And his son is like, I had to make
I can't say anything.
I know this is killing you.
But
this is so good. And that's like an hour and 40 minutes into the book. Like that's pretty quick into this massive story. Yeah. And that just shook me to my core, because I can just picture, if Chewie was going to die, that's how he dies, man. Like he sacrifices. And then this other character tells Han, he's like, look, Chewie saved you. He saved your son that saved you.
Yeah.
And so in essence, he saved himself to save you, which was all what Chewie did. And Chewie died happy knowing that he saved both of his two favorite people.
But for the next two books, Han goes back to being Hong the smuggler. He goes out and he starts going after these Yuuzhan Vong, and he wants blood. And he wants to, and then there's humans, and there's people from the Republic and from smugglers and stuff that have sided with Yuuzhan Vong, and he's going after them. This is Rogue Han Solo.
Yeah,
that they met before he met Leia.
I don't know about that yet, but I see the rogueness coming out.
It does.
In the book. Like he is turned hard and cold. He's just and the dynamic between Anakin and his siblings, like when they formed the bond between them, like the try something during the first real battle with the Yuuzhan Vong.
Oh yeah, where they're working
as three, like they can all see what each other sibling is seeing at the same time, and they form like this perfect death machines for as long as they can hold it. Like
they're fighters. Yep.
They're in TIE fighters for one, which is cool. because they have shields. And then these twins and Anakin form this death machine where not even the Yugoslav Vaughn had stood a chance.
Yeah,
like
they
are just one with the Force,
them,
with the other, and they're just this three-pronged.
You take three powerful young Jedis, and they're all linked together.
Yeah, and they couldn't hold it. But while they held it together, they formed this massive death machine that was just cutting through everything. And even Han and Leia were like, whoa. Like, what did we just witness? And I'm like, book one. This is all in book one.
Yep.
Chewbacca dies.
This is what I'm saying. Look,
you get
the goosebumps because you know what? This is what could have been.
Yes, you get to try thing, and you get to see the formation of the Jedi. And I'm like, this is the best 3 hours I've ever this would have been the best movie.
So anybody out there who thinks the sequel trilogy is really great, and you don't read any books, and you think Rey is amazing, and Ben Solo is great, Kylo Ren, these books make that crap writing, that crap story into nothing. Just think of what they could have done. There's no Ben Solo. There's no Ben Solo in these books. They created this kid out of their crappy writing. They could have had the 3 Solos, Anakin, Jason, and Janna.
Like when Chewbacca died, I immediately thought to myself, like, my God, if they would have done this on the first sequel, instead of killing Han Solo, let's say Kylo Ren put the lightsaber through Chewbacca. Like, that would have been some deep storytelling, because now you have a dad and a son.
But would it have been better than a moon collapsing on Chewbacca?
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like having Chewbacca die before Han, completely
and having
changes
Han just go rogue. He just goes, you know what? I'm gonna start fucking fools up. I'm going old school Han Solo smuggler, shooting Greedo underneath the table.
Yeah.
I'm going back there.
Imagine that. Imagine like Rey now coming to that Han and be like, look, I need you to find Luke Skywalker and save the council. And Han's just like, fuck that. Like, I am going to find and like whoever did this to my son, and I'm going to fuck up this First Order because they took out my best friend.
That would be a similar type thing.
And I would have been like, I'm in. Like Rey's Rey's journey should have been trying to make.
He would have said, "Sorry, sweetheart. I got bigger things, bigger fish to fry.
I'm going to go kill. Like, I'm going to go get my ship, get the crew, go get Calrissian, and we're going to go whoop some old school ass.
And like Lando is right in these books too.
Yeah, like him and Lando could have been like the Unforgiven, like these old dirty cowboys. Yep. One last ride of like, we're taking out this First Order because they fucked with my son, and my son took out Chewie. We're gonna go dying in the Millennium Falcon, and they're like, nope, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna go completely different.
He's older in these books, but he's not old. And that final, it's more like I'm too old for this shit type thing. Back in those final books, but it's he is awesome. I was just like, I love the storytelling about who he was. And sometimes they'll talk about somebody will see him for the first time and go, and he has this, he changes his appearance when he comes. You haven't got to this part, but he tries to make himself change his appearance some when he goes back, he grows his beard out and he goes hardcore, after all this happens in some of the upcoming books. And people are just like, who's this? Like, he was a big guy in the books, bigger than probably even Harrison Ford is in real life. He was a pretty good sized guy.
Well, like he told Leia, he's like, for the first time, I've always thought my life was protected by this bubble, and for the first time in my life, that bubble was burst, and it rocked his world.
Yep.
And that the author who put this all on the table within 3 hours, like the relationship between him and Anakin and his 2 older siblings, the Jenna and Jason, is that it? Is it
Janna and Jason?
Janna and Jason, thank you. They like, it makes it instantly deep and captivating. Like, I am so sucked into these relationships.
As I go through this book series, and then I will eventually go into the next book series, and I know what happens in the next book kind of series because I read that Aftermath of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, That's going to be some hardcore storytelling whenever there's stuff that happens in the future.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I mean,
I could tell you about it though. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I think. No, I won't say it.
I'm just saying, like this
a lot of what's
author-
happening in this is going
Yeah.
to lead to the next book.
See,
series.
that's what I'm hoping.
What's happening in these books right here when you get to like where
Yeah.
I'm at in the books? What's happening? Since I know the story, I haven't read those books about
Yeah.
Darth Kaitis yet.
Yeah.
That's my next thing. Is I never read those books.
Yeah.
I got through these books and I didn't continue on.
Mhm.
I jumped to other books and stuff and got kind of disillusioned with when Disney bought, and
Yeah.
I read the High Republic books and stuff, but this has gotten me like going, oh, I got to read those books too because I don't know that story. I know what happens,
Yeah.
because they talk about it in that final book series. A lot of it, there's flashbacks in it.
I'm going to go through all.
Think about Jason Solo becoming a Sith Lord.
Oh my
and
God.
almost conquering the universe. And guess who has to kill him?
That is amazing.
Guess who has to kill him?
Has to be his dad?
His sister has to kill him.
Oh,
Twin sister.
this is so good. So my point in all of this
It's beautiful.
It is.
The writing of these books, the
are
storytelling.
so much deeper than the movies.
And when you ask, well, why weren't these people consulted or put into writing for these Star Wars shows? Maybe they were. I don't know who wrote the screenplays and stuff.
Yeah.
If you go back and look, I'm guessing it was none of these guys. But also, these guys have no chance because guess who comes in and goes, I don't like that.
Oh, we know, but we're staying focused.
Kathleen Kennedy and her minions would
We're
come in and
staying
screw it all
focused.
up. So let's wrap this up. So obviously, let's go over a few of the characters. We went over all of them. One of the main characters in the second book is Corran Horn.
Yeah.
And you'll find at the end of their second book, so I won't give away too much of it, is he's in a big battle with some badass warriors.
Yeah.
And
you can blow it. I mean, I only got an hour left until I'm done with this.
But anyway, the end of that book ends with Corran Horn being the sole focus of the War Master because he survives a battle where he kills the War Master's brother, I think.
That's so awesome.
But anyway, and there was other things like Corran Horn left, but they left their the Jedi and the Republic leave the bodies of the slain warriors just laying there for like birds to be picking apart and bugs. And they find that to be abhorrent. You honor they honor the warriors by burying them or doing whatever. But that's what the second book ends with. The whole focus is I want Corran Horn.
Yeah.
I want that son of a bitch for myself. That's pretty much how it ends.
That's awesome.
So we discussed everything I had on my list because I made a list because I'm so far ahead.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about stuff that wasn't in those books.
And it's amazingly a lot for these very short stories. I'm just so impressed that the author set this up for everybody. Like he could have not have done any of these family dynamics, and it still would have been an interesting action-packed book.
But it's all about developing. This is what's so frustrating when you get into the movies and stuff. Is I know they're not books, but you can screenplay these things to have that dynamics in it, right?
It's so good.
You know, the stuff you really get into is about the interpersonal relationship. Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Why is it so successful?
The family dynamic,
yes.
The lawyer's son, the crazy daughter.
Yes, Rip.
Woo.
They freaking take people the fuck out and they disappear.
Who should have been the son?
John Dutton doing what's got to be done. But what I'm saying is that you can do that with all the TV shows. You got Ahsoka. The reason why Ahsoka was good is because Rebels. The writing in Rebels was so good.
Yeah.
And it developed a feeling like these are your family.
Yeah.
You're in there with them. You have interpersonal connection. So that's why these books are so important. And that's why we need to have people that are Star Wars fans get out there and start reading these books. And then maybe we start to get more of a groundswell of we're not putting up with any more of your Disney bullshit.
Hashtag kill.
Yeah.
Kill
hopefully
Chewie.
Dave Filoni is going to right the ship and Kathleen Kennedy is going to be out of the ship very soon.
Yeah.
But we got to stop having people like Leslie Headland brought in who doesn't know shit about Star Wars, who has watched the movies and maybe a few TV shows, because you can tell she doesn't care about the universe of Star Wars.
Yeah.
The Acolyte's going to be a piece of shit.
You know what made me feel uncomfortable? Watching Chewie die on this planet and then thinking he can't be dead. He can't be dead.
Yeah.
Like that. I was teary-eyed listening to this, like imagining Chewie in his last moment of strength.
As we wrap this up, please read the books. Start off with the Heir to the Empire books and just try to go through the continuum of them.
Oh, so
So
good.
there's basically 5 books. There's 3 Heir to the Empire trilogy books, and there's 2 follow-up books. And then you start getting, there's a bunch of other books in between these 2 that are more offshoots. But then you get into this new Jedi Order, which is just holy crap.
Mhm.
I mean, there is so much good stuff to be in the books. Don't just settle for these movies. Don't just settle for the TV series. They're good. I love The Mandalorian. I love Ahsoka. I love Rebels. I like the Clone Wars. I don't like the sequel trilogies at all, but I like the prequels all right.
Yeah.
And then the original, the gold standard, which is the original
Yep.
3. There's good stuff out there, but these books are better than any of it because it expands this universe and expands those characters where you have better sense. Han Solo, Leia, Luke, Lando, Chewie. You get to learn these people. These people have kids. These people become
Yep.
parents. These people are training Jedis.
They have real growth and like
Oh.
real consequences.
It's huge. So please do that. That's the whole point of us doing these book reviews, is not for us to sit here and tell you, oh, well, we know so much more than you do. We want you to learn as much, and then we can have conversations with people about
Because
this.
clearly I don't know
And
anything.
Hopefully we get a groundswell of people that start reading these books eventually. If
Yeah,
there's
Mom.
people like us and other podcasters out there and people that see the crap that's coming out of Disney over the last 10, 11 years.
Barbara.
And hopefully it's changing. We're hoping Dave Filoni is our savior.
Yeah.
But if he's not, we need a groundswell of people going, we're not going to settle for the crap you're giving us. People like Kathleen Kennedy need to be excised from the Star Wars universe. They have done no good for her whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're hoping to get.
We need another woman who's read all of these books to come in.
Someone who's a real Star Wars fan
Yeah.
and not, but then again, you have to have business people. She's just the worst person to do it because she doesn't care about she cares about herself. She doesn't care about and creating a universe for herself, not about what George Lucas created and all these other authors have built on.
Did you ever see?
All right, we're not going to sidetrack.
No.
All right.
Dang.
That's it for today. And remember the last one, we had some video issues, and hopefully we have none on this one, but the audio is great. So feel free to listen to the Smorgasbord episode. You can listen to it, and all the audio is great on it. And we will see you next time in a galaxy far, far away.
Adios.